This episode of Ghost Maps was recorded on Audio-Technica mics. Ghost Maps. Entry 10, Seletar, Singapore. When I arrive at the coffee shop, Rizal's already got a half-finished plate of mutton biryani, an egg prata, and a mug of Milo Dinosaur in front of him. He lets off a boisterous laugh when he sees my bewildered expression, then explains that he was a rugby player back in school, so he's used to piling on the food to bulk up. Naturally though, that love of food just grew over time, he says, patting his slight paunch. It was that love, however, that resulted in his unfortunate encounter. I order myself a kopi, politely decline when he offers me his prata, then ask him to start from the beginning. The beginning, Rizal tells me, was about 10 years ago. Back then, that whole stretch from Seletar Airport to the old army base just off Jalan Kayu was still being developed. There was a small residential community, sure, but you'd find little else besides thickly forested areas and empty pre-war buildings. There were, however, a handful of bars and restaurants that had already opened up. Rizal and a couple of his buddies had heard about a place near the Flying Club that served super spicy chicken wings. So they set off in Rizal's car around 5:30 one evening to give the place a try. Unfortunately, they only had a very rough idea of where the place was. Twice on the way over, they took a wrong turn and ended up in the middle of construction sites. Rizal's friends jokingly chided him over his sense of direction, but eventually they found the place. It was a good evening, Rizal recalls fondly. Lots of laughs, lots of spicy wings, and lots of milk to help with that spice. By around 9, the group was ready to head back. They got into the car and drove off, but soon realized that the roads weren't very well lit. The drive started with his friends chiding him again, but after a while, everyone in the car went silent. Every turn that Rizal took seemed to be the wrong one. His friends tried to help with suggestions, pointing out that certain landmarks looked somewhat familiar. But no matter what their suggestions were, they always ended up in a dead end, down a seemingly endless forested area, or again in the middle of a construction site. After countless wrong turns and going down similar roads several times over, the group drove down a bendy dirt path and ended up in yet another construction site. This time, however, one of Rizal's buddies, Joey, pointed out a light in the distance. Joey figured that it was a way out and encouraged Rizal to drive towards it. But something didn't feel right to Rizal. It didn't glow like normal lights, he tells me. That jovial demeanor of his slipping away slightly. It was like looking at a light through the haze, you know? Still, he drove forward, slowly, figuring it was worth giving it a shot, since nothing else seemed to be getting them out. As they got closer though, Joey, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, turned pale. Rizal looked ahead and still could only see the light in the distance. But Joey started insisting, in panicked but hushed tones, that they needed to go back the way they came. Rizal, already feeling uneasy about the situation, didn't argue. He did a 3-point turn as quickly as he could. Just before he could get the car to face the direction from which they came, however, he noticed that the light was moving towards them. And just as he put the gear into drive, Rizal saw what Joey had seen. A woman's head, her guts entangled around its spine, and nothing else. The creature turned its head towards their direction and finally noticed the group. The last thing Rizal saw before he hit the accelerator and sped out of the construction site was her face, snarling hungrily as she floated towards them. Rizal kept driving for about a minute or so more, taking turns seemingly at random. His other two friends in the back seat kept asking what was going on. Neither Joey nor Rizal was in the right frame of mind to tell them. Finally, seemingly out of nowhere, Rizal saw the lights of Jalan Kayu up ahead in the distance and kept driving forward as fast as he could. Just as he left the Seletar area, he risked one last look in his rear view mirror. Off behind them, in the distance, was that light, seemingly shrouded in a haze. But it wasn't following them. Rizal takes a deep breath, then seemingly shrugs off his more somber demeanor. "Quite a story, right, bro?" he says, patting my shoulder. I agree. Then ask him if he ever went back there. He says he never did, but weakly jokes that the chicken was too spicy for him anyway. I chuckle along, helping him to hide his discomfort. If you want to discover more of Southeast Asia's other side, subscribe now. This episode was produced with help from Singlet Station.